You've seen the Nataraja in a temple, in a museum, in a dance studio, maybe on a wall you walk past without thinking. Ring of fire, drum in one hand, flame in the other, one foot raised. It's one of the most recognized images in the world. But have you ever looked down? Look down under the right foot. There's a small figure being crushed into the ground. A dwarf. His body is twisted, his face is turned upward, and if you look closely, his eyes are open. He's not dead, he's struggling, always struggling. Most people think he's just another demon, another villain defeated. He's not. His name is Apasmara. He is the only being in Hindu mythology that the Nataraja cannot kill. Not will not, cannot. Because if this dwarf dies, the dance ends, the universe collapses. And his name? It's also the ancient Sanskrit word for a medical condition that millions of people still suffer from today. But before we get to what he is, let me tell you how he was born. Thousands of years ago, deep in the south of the Vindhyas, there was a forest called Darukavana, the forest of Deodar trees. It wasn't a quiet place, it was alive. Thousands of rishis lived here with their families. Ashrams lined the riverbanks. Sacrificial fires burnt day and night. The air smelled of ghee and sandalwood and something else, ambition. Because these weren't ordinary sages. These were men who had memorized the Vedas backwards, who could chant mantras that would make Indra send rain, who had performed yajnas so powerful that the gods themselves had appeared before them. And that was a problem. When the gods answer your call often enough, you start to believe you're the one in control. You stop seeing the mantras as a prayer, you start seeing them as a command. The rishis of Darukavana had crossed that line. They didn't worship the gods anymore, they managed them. They believed the universe ran on ritual and they were the ones performing the rituals. So really, who was more powerful, Shiva or the men who could summon Shiva? That question reached Kailasa and Shiva smiled. He didn't come as a god. He came as a beggar. One morning at the edge of the forest, a man appeared. No horse, no chariot, no announcement. Just a figure walking barefoot through the deodar trees. Ash smeared across his body, matted hair piled on his head, a skull in one hand, nothing else. No name, no lineage, no ashram. He was Bhikshatana, the wandering beggar form of Shiva. And he was the most beautiful thing anyone in that forest had ever seen. The wives noticed first. They came out of their homes to watch him pass. Women who had spent decades in discipline, in silence, in devotion to their husbands, they stopped mid-prayer. Water pots slipped from their hands. Cooking fires went untended. Children tugged at their mother's clothes and were ignored. It wasn't desire, not exactly. It was something deeper, a pull, like a compass swinging towards north. Every part of them recognized something in the stranger, even though their minds couldn't name it. The rishis saw all of this and they were furious. Not because they understood what was happening, but because they didn't. These were men who believed they understood everything. And now some naked beggar was undoing their entire world without saying a single word. So they did what powerful men always do when their control is threatened. They attacked, but they didn't fight with swords. These were Vedic scholars. They fought with ritual. The chief priests gathered around the largest sacrificial fire in the forest. They fed it until the flames roared taller than the trees. They began chanting, not prayers, weapons. The first thing that emerged from the fire was a tiger. Not a normal tiger, a beast born of pure sacrificial energy, enormous. Its roar shook the leaves of the deodars. Its eyes were the color of the fire it came from. It lunged at the stranger. Shiva caught it by the jaw. With one motion, almost lazy, almost casual, he tore the skin clean off. The tiger crumpled. Shiva wrapped the skin around his waist. The rishis didn't stop. From the fire came a serpent, massive. Its hood spread wide enough to shade 3 men. Venom dripped from its fangs and hissed where it hit the ground. It struck at Shiva's throat. He caught it mid-strike, mid-air, and coiled it around his neck like a garland. The rishis chanted faster, harder. Weapons began flying out of the fire. A trident, an axe, a damru, a skull cup, each one was meant to destroy. Shiva caught them one by one, and each one became something he wore. The trident went into his hand, the skull became a bowl, the axe an ornament. Everything they threw at him, he turned into jewelry. The rishis were panting now, drenched in sweat. The fire was dimming. Their most powerful rituals, their most devastating weapons, their entire life's mastery, none of it had left a scratch on this beggar. So they gathered everything they had left, every last syllable of power, and they created one final weapon. What rose from the fire this time was small, not a beast, not a serpent, not a weapon, a dwarf, ugly, twisted, grinning. He stumbled out of the flames like a drunk, barely reaching Shiva's knee. Some of the rishis almost laughed. After a tiger and a king cobra, this was your final weapon? But the older priest didn't laugh because they knew what they had created. His name was Apasmara. Apasmara, it means forgetfulness, the loss of memory. Not the kind where you forget a name or a date, the kind where you forget who you are, where you lose the thread that connects you to something larger, where you look at the divine and feel nothing. In fact, in Ayurveda, Apasmara is still the Sanskrit word for epilepsy, a condition where you lose control of your body, you forget who you are, you lose consciousness, and when you come back, you don't remember what happened. The ancient physicians saw epilepsy as a physical version of exactly this, the body forgetting itself. The tiger could maul your body, the serpent could poison your blood, but Apasmara could erase your soul. And that forgetting, that's the most dangerous form of ignorance there is. Not the ignorance of not knowing, the ignorance of believing you already know everything. The kind the rishis themselves had been drowning in without realizing it. And now that ignorance had a body and it was charging at Shiva. Apasmara lunged. Shiva didn't kill him. He could have. One look from the third eye, one flick of the trident, but he didn't. Instead, he lifted his left foot and brought his right foot down, hard, onto Apasmara's back. That dwarf hit the ground, face twisted sideways, spine bent, his arms clawed at the earth, his mouth opened in a scream that no one heard, and Shiva's foot stayed. What happened next is the reason we are still talking about the story thousands of years later. Shiva began to move. Slowly at first, a shift of weight, a turn of the wrist. His right hand came up, palm open, fingers pointing towards the sky. Abhaya Mudra, don't be afraid. Then the damru appeared in his upper right hand. He struck it once. The sound didn't echo, it expanded. It spread outward from that forest like a ripple in water, except it wasn't water, it was reality. The sound of creation, the first heartbeat of the universe. The rishis froze. Fire appeared in his upper left hand, not the fire from their pit, something older, something that existed before the first yajna was ever performed. The fire of dissolution, the flame at the end of time. Creation in one hand, destruction in the other, and between them Shiva's body moved. His left foot rose higher slowly until it pointed at nothing and everything, liberation, the way out, moksha. His lower left hand swept down to point at it as if to say, there, that's the door, that's where you're going. And around him a ring of fire erupted, not burning outward, burning inward. A circle of flame that contained the dance, that contained the universe, Prabhamandala, the arc of eternal fire. The ground shook, the deodar trees bent. The sacrificial fires of the rishis, those great powerful ritual fires they were so proud of, went out. Every single one, snuffed, as if they were candles in a storm. The rishis fell. Not because Shiva pushed them, not because he punished them. They fell because they finally saw. They saw what they had forgotten in all their years of mastery and ritual and control. That they were not the ones running the universe, that the mantras they chanted were not commands, they were permissions granted by the very being who was now dancing in front of them. They fell to their knees, some of them wept, some of them simply stared, and some of them, for the first time in decades, closed their eyes and actually prayed. And through all of it, through the shaking earth and the ring of fire and the failing sages, Apasmara lay under Shiva's foot. Alive, struggling, he would never stop struggling. And Shiva would never stop dancing. That is the Nataraja. Here's a part that changes everything. Shiva didn't spare Apasmara out of mercy, he spared him out of necessity. In Shaiva philosophy, if Apasmara dies, duality ends, Maya collapses. Without forgetting, there is no remembering. Without ignorance, there is no awakening. Without the darkness, there's nothing for the light to illuminate. Apasmara is the reason the journey exists. Kill him and you kill the path to moksha itself. So Shiva holds him. Not dead, not free, pinned, controlled, kept exactly where he needs to be, present enough to give the dance a purpose, suppressed enough to never take over. And there's one more layer to this. In one popular yogic reading of the Nataraja, Shiva's foot lands at the base of Apasmara's spine, right where the Mooladhara chakra sits. Your foundation, the root, disturb it and everything above it collapses. Shiva's foot is holding that root in place. Mythology, medicine, psychology, the same truth. There is one place in India where all of this converges, Chidambaram, a small town in Tamil Nadu, unremarkable from the outside, but inside the temple walls is something that has stunned philosophers and devotees for over 1,000 years. You walk through the 4 massive gopurams, you cross vast courtyards, you pass the Shivaganga tank where pilgrims bath before entering. The temple is enormous, nearly 40 acres, one of the oldest Shiva temples in South India. And it's the only major temple where the Nataraja is a primary deity, not a Shivalingam, not a seated form, the dancing form. The priests here are called Dikshitars. They are not Brahmins in the conventional temple sense. They trace their lineage to the rishis who are said to have witnessed the original dance. The very dance we just told you about. They tie their hair in a knot at the front of their head, not the back. They have maintained this temple and its rituals unbroken for centuries. And then you reach the inner sanctum, the Chit Sabha, the hall of consciousness. There are 2 spaces here, side by side. On the left, behind a curtain, is the Chidambara Rahasyam, the secret of Chidambaram. When the priests pull the curtain back, you expect to see something, a murti, a lingam, something. There's nothing. An empty space, decorated with golden vilva leaves, but empty. That's the deity, the formless, pure consciousness, the space in which everything exists and into which everything dissolves. And on the right, standing in front of that emptiness, dancing for all of eternity is a Nataraja. His foot on Apasmara, forever, form and formless side by side, the dance and the silence it dances within. Thousands of people visit every day. They see the dance, they fold their hands, they pray. Almost none of them look down. The rishis of Darukavana were the most learned men of their age. They had mastered every scripture, they had performed every ritual. And their ignorance wasn't that they lacked knowledge, it was that they believed their knowledge made them untouchable. Look around you today. You'll see Apasmara everywhere. The leader who surrounds himself with people who only agree with him. The man in power who has never been told he's wrong and now believes he can't be. The person who confuses authority with wisdom. The one who thinks winning an argument is the same as being right. Nations run by people who refuse counsel. Industries built by people who stop listening. Empires that collapsed not because they were attacked from outside, but because no one inside was allowed to say, "This is wrong." That's Apasmara, alive, grinning, sitting in boardrooms and parliaments and palaces. The same dwarf, the same arrogance, the same forgetfulness, forgetting that you are not the center of the universe, no matter how many people tell you that you are. The rishis had an excuse, they had never seen Shiva dance. What's ours? The next time you see a Nataraja, in a temple, in a museum, on a wall, don't just admire the dance. Look down. That dwarf is not just you. He is every person who ever forgot that they don't know everything. And that foot, that's the only thing standing between the world and collapse. Tell me in the comments, who is Apasmara you see in the world today? Om Namah Shivaya. Subscribe and we'll see you at the next temple.